The noise hit first. 3,000 voices layered into one roar that made the metal bleachers hum. The Clearwater County Rodeo drew crowds from 5 states every August, packing the fairgrounds arena with ranchers, tourists, families who came for the spectacle of men versus animals in controlled chaos. Controlled being the operative word. Until Gate 7 opened. The sound changed before anyone saw what was coming through. A shift in pitch, the crowd's energy pulling back instead of pushing forward, like the entire arena sensed something wrong before the evidence appeared. Then he came through the gate. The bull was massive, 2,400 pounds of black hide stretched over muscle that moved like machinery under skin. Brahma-Angus cross, the worst combination for temperament. His head hung low, not in submission but in calculation, and when he stepped fully into the arena dust, the noise dropped by half. Beckett Callahan, the arena announcer in his 20th year of calling rodeo events, gripped his microphone tighter. His voice, usually confident, practiced, built for showmanship, came out different this time. Folks, that's Reckoner, 5 years old, retired from circuit competition after 3 incidents. He paused. This bull has put 4 riders in the hospital. 2 required surgery. Management pulled him from active rotation 6 months ago. The crowd murmured. Parents pulled children closer. Reckoner stood in the center of the arena, head turning slowly as if surveying territory, not performing for spectators. His eyes were wrong. Not the glazed look of livestock bred for docility, not even the wild unpredictability of a good bucking bull. Something colder. Something that looked like it was choosing targets. 3 pickup riders positioned themselves at the perimeter. Silas Hawthorne, Cullen Whitaker, and Rhett Sutherland, experienced cowboys whose job was managing bulls after riders dismounted. Their horses shifted nervously. Animals can sense what humans rationalize away. Easy, Silas muttered to his mount, but his eyes never left Reckoner. This one's different. The plan was simple. Demonstrate the bull's continued unsuitability for competition, then load him onto the transport that would take him to a livestock auction where he'd be sold for meat processing. Final destination for bulls too dangerous for rodeo work. Except nobody had explained the plan to Reckoner. When Cullen's horse moved to the left to begin the standard herding pattern, Reckoner's head snapped toward the movement with predatory focus. Not startled, not reactive, focused. The bull's front hoof dug into arena dirt twice, slow, deliberate scrapes that sent dust rising in small clouds. "That's a charge warning," Rhett said into his radio mic. "That's not bucking posture, that's—" Reckoner lunged, not at the riders. At the metal panel fence separating the arena from the holding area, where a half-dozen ranch hands stood watching. The impact of 2,400 pounds hitting steel made a sound like a car crash. The panel bent. Men scrambled backward. The crowd gasped as one organism. Reckoner backed up 3 steps, shook his massive head, and stood perfectly still again. Waiting. "Jesus Christ," Beckett said, forgetting his mic was live. The words echoed across the PA system. That's when movement caught every eye in the arena. Near the competitor gate, a figure emerged from the side passage. A woman, mid-30s, wearing jeans and a simple gray shirt that curved over an unmistakably pregnant belly. 7 months, maybe 8. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she carried nothing except the kind of tension that comes from knowing something nobody else knows. Maren Delaney had been standing in the livestock prep area when Reckoner entered the arena. She'd been there specifically because she knew this moment was coming, had known for 6 weeks, since the fairground manager called her saying they'd acquired a problem bull for final exhibition before processing. She knew which bull before he finished the sentence. Now, watching Reckoner stand in arena center radiating violence, watching 3 experienced cowboys struggle to approach him, watching the crowd inch toward panic, she made a decision that defied every safety protocol and common-sense instinct. She stepped toward the arena gate. Sloane Whitmore, the rodeo safety coordinator, saw her first. "Maren, no, absolutely not. You're not cleared for—" "I know this bull." Maren's voice was quiet but absolute. "I don't care if you—" Sloane stopped mid-sentence as understanding hit. "Wait, You're the one who raised him? For 14 months, before he was sold. That was 4 years ago. He's killed. He hasn't killed anyone. Maren's correction was sharp. He's injured people who treated him wrong. There's a difference. In the arena, Reckoner scraped the ground again. Silas's horse backed up despite his rider's pressure to hold position. You can't go in there. Sloane grabbed Maren's arm, not rough but firm with authority and genuine concern. Especially not... Her eyes dropped to Maren's belly. Then give me another option that doesn't end with him shot when he charges someone. Sloane had no answer because they both knew what happened to bulls who attacked spectators or crew. There was no second chance. No rehabilitation program, just immediate termination. 5 minutes, Maren said. If it doesn't work, I'll pull back. But I'm the only person in this facility who's ever seen him calm. The calculation on Sloane's face was visible. Liability versus catastrophe. Protocol versus practical reality. Before she could decide, Maren made the choice for her. She opened the gate and stepped into the arena. The reaction was immediate and loud. No! Came from a dozen voices at once. Someone get her out! What is she doing? Beckett's voice cracked over the PA. Ma'am, you need to exit the arena immediately. That animal is extremely dangerous and... Reckoner's head turned. The movement was smooth, unhurried, and somehow worse than if he'd charged immediately. His entire massive body rotated until he faced her directly, and the calculation in his posture was unmistakable. Threat assessment, distance evaluation, decision pending. The arena went from noise to near silence in 3 seconds. Maren stood 15 feet inside the gate, her right hand resting unconsciously on her belly, her left hand loose at her side. She didn't run, didn't retreat, just stood there meeting the bull's gaze with something that wasn't quite courage because courage implies overcoming fear, and her expression showed no fear at all, just recognition. Reckoner took 1 step toward her, then another. His hooves left deep impressions in the arena dirt. His head stayed low, not submission, not yet, but focused attention on this new variable that didn't match his experience. Somebody do something! A woman's voice from the stands, high with panic. Silas moved his horse closer, hand reaching for the rope at his saddle. Maren, I'm coming in. Don't! Her voice carried despite being barely above speaking volume. Any movement from you and he'll charge. Stay where you are. The pickup riders froze. The crowd held breath collectively. Reckoner was now 10 feet away. Close enough that everyone could see the scars on his hide. Old rope burns, impact marks from being thrown against chutes, the physical history of an animal that had learned violence from human hands before he ever delivered it back. His nostrils flared. His front hoof lifted. The crowd inhaled sharply. And set down without scraping. Not a charge warning. Just a step. Maren moved her left hand slowly from her side, palm open, fingers relaxed. Not reaching for him. Not commanding. Just offering. Everyone here thinks you're a killer, she said quietly. Voice meant only for the bull whose ears swiveled toward the sound. They're wrong. I know they're wrong. Because I remember the calf who couldn't sleep unless someone was close. I remember the calf who nuzzled hands looking for comfort, not food. Reckoner's head lifted slightly. His eyes, dark, bottomless, holding intelligence that most people refuse to acknowledge in livestock, fixed on her face. I remember you, Maren said. Question is, do you remember me? The bull stopped moving. For 5 seconds, that felt like 5 hours. Nothing in the Clearwater County Fairgrounds arena moved. 3,000 people sat frozen. Pickup riders held position like statues. The pregnant woman and the violent bull stood 10 feet apart in a standoff that defied every natural law of predator response and prey behavior. Then Reckoner took 1 more step. Close enough now that Maren could see his breath move the dust. Close enough that if he charged, there would be no escape. Close enough that her hand, if she lifted it just slightly, could touch him. The entire place held its breath and waited for blood. The calf arrived in March, delivered by Gideon Cross in a rattling trailer before dawn. Dam rejected him, Gideon said. Won't nurse. Tried bottle feeding, but he's not responsive. Figured you might. Maren Delaney ran rehabilitation for animals other ranchers gave up on, rejects, injured, traumatized. 60 acres, small operation, but her real work was teaching livestock that humans didn't always mean pain. She opened the trailer gate. The calf stood pressed in the corner, legs trembling despite the blanket covering him. 3 weeks old, maybe 40 pounds, dark hide showing the Brahma hump that would make him massive, eyes white-rimmed with terror. How long since he nursed? 16 hours. Damn, kicked him twice. Maren climbed in slowly. Easy. Nobody's hurting you here. The calf bolted, got 3 steps before exhaustion dropped him. He lay shaking, making a sound half moo, half sob. She sat 5 feet away and waited 40 minutes. 40 minutes until his breathing slowed, trembling decreased, eyes stopped searching for escape and started looking at her. When she extended her hand, the calf pressed his muzzle against her fingers with desperate need for contact he'd been denied since birth. Yeah, Maren said quietly. You're staying. The first weeks were constant. The calf, she named him Reckoner after watching him unlatch 3 gate mechanisms, couldn't be alone. When she left the barn, he bellowed. At night, she slept in the straw. Her husband Holden thought she was insane. He's livestock, Maren, not a pet. He's a baby who learned nobody comes when he calls. That changes an animal. She bottle-fed every 4 hours, taught him to drink from buckets, introduced him to the herd gradually. Other calves played, tested boundaries, developed independence. Reckoner stayed close, following her like a shadow, nuzzling her hands when stressed, positioning himself between her and anything threatening. By 6 months, 300 pounds of muscle and attitude, but still seeking her touch for reassurance. He's too attached, Holden said. When you sell him, I'm not selling him. We can't keep a bull that size. He'll be 1,800 pounds. You know that. She did. But knowing didn't make it easier. 14 months later, the bank sent foreclosure notice. 3 months behind on mortgage. Drought killed hay crop. Equipment repairs drained savings. They needed money or they needed to sell. Emmett Waverly, stock contractor, offered $3,000. That's a bucking bull build. I can train him for rodeo. Good money. Maren knew what rodeo training meant. Flank straps, prods, rough handling designed to make bulls aggressive. Everything that would destroy the calf who'd trembled in a trailer. He's not aggressive. He will be after my program, that's the point. She refused twice, but mortgages don't care about attachments. The morning Emmett's trailer came, Reckoner loaded peacefully because Maren was there. She stroked his head, felt him lean into her touch one last time. You're gonna be okay, she whispered, knowing it was a lie. The trailer pulled away. Reckoner bellowed. The same sound from that first terrified morning, now amplified by 800 pounds. She heard it for a full minute. 3 weeks later, Emmett called. Your bull's untrainable. Charges anyone who approaches. Nearly killed my assistant. Because you're hurting him. I'm training him. But there wasn't a difference. Not to Reckoner. He'd learned trust once, lost it, and decided never to be vulnerable again. Over 4 years, he built a reputation, violent, unpredictable, dangerous. Moved from contractor to contractor, each hoping to break him, each failing. Injuries piled up, riders, handlers, anyone who got close. The rage of an animal who'd learned trust was betrayal. Maren followed his history through rodeo circles, heard the stories, knew what she'd done by selling him, carried that weight, until 6 weeks ago. We've got your old bull. Final exhibition before processing. Thought you'd want to know. Now, standing in Clearwater Arena with her hand extended and 3,000 people holding breath, she wondered if memory survived 4 years of violence. If the calf who couldn't sleep alone remembered the woman who'd stayed. 10 feet separated Maren from a bull who'd hospitalized 4 people in 2 years. Reckoner's head hung low, nostrils flaring, eyes darker and harder than she remembered. Behind her, 3,000 people existed as whispers, gasps, static. Someone crying. A child. Mommy, why isn't she running? Silas's voice through radio. Sloane, I've got a clear rope throw. Stand by. Don't move unless he charges. Maren took one step forward. The crowd inhaled. Reckoner's front hoof scraped dirt, quick, uncertain. Confusion, not aggression. Good. Confusion meant processing, meant something recognized a mismatch between threat expected and familiarity sensed. Easy, Maren whispered. It's me. 4 years and I look different and I know you're angry, but it's still me. Her right hand on her belly, baby moving. Left hand extended, palm open. Reckoner took another step. 7 feet. Cullen's horse sidestepped. Beckett frozen at booth. Faces showing terror, fascination. None of it mattered. What mattered was Reckoner's breathing changing. Still heavy but slower. Pattern shifting from pre-charge to something else. Memory. Body memory. The kind that lives in nervous systems, that remembers safety before the brain can name it. His head lifted slightly. Aggressive angle softening. You used to push your whole face into my hands, Maren continued. Used to follow me like you thought I'd disappear. You were right. I did disappear. I sent you away and I've carried that 4 years. 5 feet. Close enough to see scars. Rope burn on shoulder. Impact marks on ribs. Physical evidence of what training had done. I know what they did, she said. I know you learned to fight because it was fight or break. But somewhere under that armor there's still the calf who couldn't sleep alone. The one who trusted me until I gave him reason not to. 3 feet. Reckoner stopped. Body tense with indecision. Every instinct screaming proximity meant pain. Every buried memory whispering something different. Arena gone quiet. Maren could hear her heartbeat. Baby's movement. Reckoner's breath synchronizing with hers. She took the final step herself. Close enough that his breath warmed her hand. Close enough that if he charged, no chance. Close enough that everyone understood this was the moment. 4 years of violence would either override 14 months of trust or something impossible would happen. Reckoner's eyes met hers directly. In that gaze, the war. Every conflicting impulse fighting. The calf and the bull. Memory and rage. The animal who'd learned humans meant pain confronting the one human who'd once meant safety. I'm sorry, she whispered. For all of it. For failing you. For not fighting harder. For every hand that hurt when it should have helped. Her fingertips touched his muzzle. The entire arena froze. 3,000 people. 3 riders. Every official. Suspended between expecting catastrophe and witnessing the impossible. 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then Reckoner closed his eyes. Not in aggression. Not preparing to charge. In recognition. His massive head pressed forward into her touch. Tentative first, then with pressure. The same gesture from when he was a terrified calf. The same trust 4 years hadn't erased. Maren's other hand came up, both palms against his face. Feeling heat, tremor in muscles, the war still raging between what he'd been trained to be and what he'd been born as. Yeah, she breathed. You remember. A sound from Reckoner, not bellow, not snort. Something softer, almost like the confused moo of a calf realizing his person hadn't abandoned him. Somewhere in stands, someone started crying. Beckett found his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have words for what we're witnessing. Neither did anyone else. This wasn't about taming or conquering danger through courage. This was about memory. The kind that survives violence, that waits beneath rage, that recognizes safety when logic says it's impossible. About the space between what the world expected and what happened when a pregnant woman touched a bull everyone said would kill her. For 30 seconds, nobody moved. Maren stood with both hands on Reckoner's face, feeling him tremble as 4 years of rage fought 14 months of memory. The bull kept eyes closed, head pressed forward like he was afraid if he looked, the moment would shatter. 3,000 people held collective breath. Sloane's voice crackled through PA. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. The situation is under control. The situation was impossible. It defied every rule about violent bulls and risk protocols. Beckett found his voice. I've been calling rodeos 20 years and I've never... He trailed off. Maren moved one hand to Reckoner's neck, feeling scars beneath hide. Hey, I need you to back up now. Can you do that for me? Reckoner's eyes opened, recognition and confusion, and he took one step back, then another, choosing to trust. The crowd exhaled audibly. Silas maneuvered closer. Maren, I'm going to position between you two. He won't charge, not unless someone spooks him. With respect, that's not a bet I'm taking with your life. But Reckoner showed no charge indicators. Head level, not lowered. Hooves planted, not scraping. He watched Maren with intensity that was calculation, but not predatory. More like an animal trying to reconcile body memory with learned experiences. Sloane appeared at gate. Maren, walk toward me. Slow. Maren took one step backward. Reckoner's head followed, but hooves stayed planted. Another step, distance growing. Third step, Reckoner made a sound, low, uncertain, questioning. The same sound from when he was a calf and she'd leave the barn. I know, Maren said, throat tight. But I can't stay in here. 3 more steps, each requiring conscious effort not to run. When she reached the gate, Sloane pulled her through, slamming it shut with metallic clang. Reckoner flinched but didn't charge, just stood watching where Maren had disappeared, radiating confusion. The crowd erupted, applause mixed with shock, mixed with crying, parents clutching children, ranchers with expressions saying, "Did that really happen?" Dashiell Knox, fairground manager, appeared with clipboard. What in the hell was that? Something I'll never see again, Sloane said quietly. She could have been killed. That bull's scheduled for processing tomorrow morning. That decision isn't changing. Whatever just happened, Maren said, adrenaline catching up, is proof he's not irredeemable. He's traumatized. There's a difference. A difference that doesn't matter to my liability insurance. In the arena, Reckoner paced along fence, still searching for Maren. Distressed, not dangerous. Thaddeus Vale, the stock contractor who owned Reckoner, appeared with 3 ranch hands carrying electric prods. That bull goes in the trailer now, processing appointment 6 a.m. You use those prods and you'll prove exactly why he's violent, Maren said. Not your bull, not your call. He was my bull, for 14 months, before every contractor turned him into what you needed instead of what he was. Tomorrow he's worth his meat weight. This conversation ends. A ranch hand approached Reckoner with prod. The bull's demeanor changed instantly, head dropping, hooves scraping, predatory focus returning. Stop, Maren's voice carried. You're triggering his training response. The ranch hand activated the prod. The electric crack sent Reckoner exploding sideways. Not charging, violent evasion. Learned response from hundreds of shocks. He crashed into fence, bent panel, wheeled toward nearest human with violence overriding the fragile recognition Maren had created. Jesus Christ, Silas muttered. That's the bull from the reports. They'd just watched the transformation. The animal who'd pressed face into Maren's hands becoming the weapon contractors spent 4 years creating. Sloane grabbed radio. All personnel clear arena. We need sedation and full restraint. No, Maren said. You're 8 months pregnant, and that bull just went docile to lethal in 3 seconds. The risk isn't worth it. Maren was already opening the gate. Maren! Holden's voice. Her husband from the stands, face showing terror and fury. What the hell are you doing? What I should have done 4 years ago. Fighting for him. She stepped back into the arena. Ranch hands froze. Thaddeus started yelling. Holden started toward gate, and Sloane physically blocked him. Reckoner stood 30 feet away, sides heaving, eyes wild, every muscle coiled for violence. And Maren, 8 months pregnant and terrified but absolutely certain, spoke into chaos. Reckoner! Hey, look at me! The bull's head swung toward her voice. Arena held its breath for the second time that night. Not them, Maren said. Me, I'm right here. Nobody's hurting you. Not while I'm standing here, I promise. 5 seconds. Nothing. Bull and woman. Violence and voice that memory said meant safety. Then, impossibly, Reckoner's breathing started to slow. His head lowered, not in aggression, but in something like exhaustion. Like an animal who'd been fighting for so long, he'd forgotten what peace felt like. Maren took one step toward him, then another. Thaddeus's voice from outside. "She's insane. Someone stop her before—" "Everyone shut up," Sloane hissed into her radio. "Nobody moves, nobody speaks. Let her work." Maren reached Reckoner, placed her hand on his massive shoulder, felt him shaking. "Yeah," she whispered. I know you're tired. I know you don't understand why I left or why I came back or why they keep hurting you. But I'm here now, right here." The bull pressed his weight against her palm, not aggressive, but seeking. The same gesture from 14 months of trust that 4 years hadn't completely destroyed. "Come on," Maren said. "Let's get you out of this arena, away from the lights and noise. Somewhere quiet." She started walking toward the exit gate, hand on Reckoner's shoulder. And impossibly, the 2,400-pound bull who'd hospitalized 4 people followed her like a calf following its mother. 3,000 people watched in absolute silence as the pregnant woman and the violent bull walked together across arena dirt. And everyone present knew they'd just witnessed something that would be told and retold until it became legend. The night memory proved stronger than violence. The negotiation happened in the fairground office, while Reckoner stood in a holding pen, calm because Maren sat on the fence rail within his sight. Thaddeus Vale spread papers across the desk. "That bull's worth $847 at meat weight. That's what I'm getting tomorrow." "I'll give you $3,000, Maren said. The same price Thaddeus had paid 4 years ago for a calf who wasn't aggressive yet. "You're 8 months pregnant and that bull hospitalized 4 people. You expect me to believe you can manage him?" "I'm the only person who's ever managed him. You saw that tonight." Holden sat beside his wife. They'd argued in the parking lot, him terrified, her immovable. Eventually, he'd started figuring out how to make it work. "Our ranch runs breeding cattle, production animals. Reckoner wouldn't be trained for rodeo. He'd just exist." "As what? Mascot?" Thaddeus laughed. "He's worth something to me," Maren said quietly. "Worth proving what he became wasn't his fault." Dashiell Knox reviewed insurance paperwork. "I need documentation that Ms. Delaney assumes all liability." "Agreed," Maren said immediately. Thaddeus studied her. $3,500, and you sign every waiver." "Deal." 3 hours later, Holden's trailer pulled into Delaney Ranch. Same ranch Reckoner had left 4 years ago, bellowing. This time, he walked down the ramp quietly, head turning to take in surroundings his body remembered. The barn, the pasture gate, the water trough. Maren stood at fence line, hand on her belly. Holden positioned himself protectively close. Reckoner walked past them toward the barn entrance, stopped, turned back checking if Maren was still there. "Yeah," she said softly. "I'm here. Not going anywhere this time." The bull made that low questioning sound, the same from 14 months of bedtime routines. "Go on, inside. Same stall as before if you remember." Impossibly, Reckoner walked directly to third stall on left, the one with more space where Maren used to sleep when he couldn't be alone. He stepped inside, turned, stood facing entrance. Waiting. Maren followed, grabbed blanket, lowered herself to sit against stall wall, 8 months pregnant and exhausted and certain. Reckoner moved closer, not crowding but near enough to reach. She placed hand on his shoulder. He relaxed incrementally. 4 years you've been fighting, she said quietly. 4 years of people hurting you and you hurting back. But we're done with that now. You're home. And nobody here needs you to be anything except what you are. His breathing deepened, slowed. Massive head lowered until muzzle rested near her knee. Not quite touching, but close enough to share warmth. Holden appeared at stall entrance. "Maren, you need rest. You can't sleep out here." "I'm not leaving him alone his first night back." He needs to know this is permanent. What about when the baby comes? Then we figure it out. But tonight, he needs to remember what safety feels like. I owe him that. Holden brought pillow, extra blanket, and promised to check in 2 hours. 3,000 people had watched something impossible at Clearwater. But what happened in Delaney Ranch's barn was simpler, quieter, more profound. A pregnant woman keeping a promise broken 4 years ago. A traumatized bull learning memory could be trusted again, and the beginning of something that looked less like redemption and more like repair. Slow, uncertain, but possible. By morning, Reckoner was asleep standing up, head lowered peacefully. And Maren, hand still resting on him, finally believed that some things broken by necessity could be made whole by choice.